Rangeba Sojola here. In this video, we'll be basically discussing a cryptocurrency or a blockchain, right, that happens to be compliant with the ISO 20022 regulations standards, right? This cryptocurrency is basically known as XinFin, right? And or otherwise XDC network, right? Now, XinFin is a third generation smart contract platform, right? Which is a hybrid blockchain, right? Meaning basically that it is a public blockchain and a private blockchain at the same time, right? It is an enterprise ready blockchain, right? It is a commercial grade standard blockchain, right? It was fundamentally designed for international trade, right? And international finance. Now, the blockchain is very fast, right? Very secure, right? It is decentralized, right? And basically, it was designed to deal with scalability issues. Right now, the XDC token was basically developed by the XDC Foundation, right? And the XDC token is believed to be a combination of basically two cryptocurrencies. Number one, Ethereum, basically for its smart contract capabilities, right? And a combination of a cryptocurrency known as quant or quantum, right? Which basically processes data very fast and basically exchanges and connects data with other blockchains, right? So XDC has a very unique built-in financial instruments to assist whatever business wants to plug into the blockchain or wants to be part of the XDC network, right? Now, XDC is recognized by a number of international bodies, right? Number one, it is recognized by Citigroup, right? Number two, it is recognized by the World Trade Organization, right? Yes, and it can be used, right, in the SWIFT system, right? And it's basically fundamentally used for processing huge amounts of data, right? And and exchanging data. It's also recognized by a body that is known as the Trade Global Finance, right? So this basically has to do with shipping and moving trade over oceans or huge amounts of cargo, basically trade and finance, right? And it is expected to house about $30 trillion, right, in monetary value, right, based on the size and the amount and the performance of the trade and finance industries. The XDC's token ability to tokenize, right, basically digitalize real world assets, also puts it as quite a desirable blockchain to use, especially if you want a quick migration, right, from normal traditional business procedure right onto the blockchain. Now, when we look at the type of consensus mechanism that XDC deploys on its network, right, it's basically known as a delegated proof of stake, right? So now there are about three types of different nodes that you find in the XDC network, right? The first type of nodes that you find are basically known as nominators, right? The second type of nodes that you can find are basically known as validators, right? And the third type of node that you can find in the XDC network is basically known as the master nodes. Now, the master nodes are basically the nodes which basically stores KYC information. KYC basically stands for know your customer, right? And the the nominator nodes, right, are basically the nodes which nominate or rather delegate their XTC or their voting power, right, to nodes which are known as validators, right? Validators basically they come in different types. You can get people that you can delegate to directly, and you can get staking pools within this system, right? So basically, that's what is used, right, for consensus within the XTC network. Now, when we look at the type of consensus mechanism that the XTC network uses, it's basically known as the delegated proof of stake. Now, you find three types of nodes within the system, right? The first type is known as the nominator, right? The second type is known as the validator, right? And the third type is basically known as the master node. The master node basically is used to store, right, KYC information. KYC information is basically know your customer. This is the type of information that financial institutions like banks and lending platforms would actually need, right? Your ID and things like that, where you stay, yeah, whatever. Now, then we get the second type of node, which is basically the nominator, right? The nominator is basically delegates its votes, right, or its XDC to a node that is known as the validators, right? The validators basically verify transactions publicly. So if you have, let's say, 100 XTC, for example, right, and you decide to delegate, right, these coins or your voting power, right, to a staking pool or a validator, right, this validator, right, basically takes your vote and he takes the best vote based on the type of knowledge that they have, right, about the network and verifying transactions and creating blocks, right? So yeah, basically that is the consensus mechanism that is used in the XTC network. So I would say in conclusion, right, that XTC fundamental use, right, is to basically exchange and connect data, right? It's to tokenize, to create smart platforms for specifically the international trade and finance industries, right? Now, it can be used for core banking, right? It is recognized by a number of financial regulatory bodies, right? And I'd say it's one of my favorite cryptocurrencies because it's quite a silent killer. Nobody is actually looking at XTC, and it's quite a huge potential, right, that it has, right? So thank you for the opportunity. I'll see you in the next video.